comfortable, all set up well?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. The arm is tight enough too?
Yeah, we're good.
Sure. Okay.
We're good.
We're good? Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Double E Elevating Entrepreneurs. Today, I'm here with my friend Kire Davis. He's a customer experience strategist and owner of a clothing brand called For No Reason. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for introducing me, Elizabeth. I'm pumped to be talking to you today. Like you said, I am a customer experience strategist, and I have a brand called FNR, which stands for No Reason. And just talking to you a little bit about kind of how you got started at your podcasting and everything, I feel like you really embody the For No Reason message. Absolutely.
Okay. What's your message?
So, For No Reason literally means just stepping out on faith and doing something that kind of empowers you, right? So we're really focused on leisure time. And I think a lot of people need leisure time.
Yeah.
I don't think we focus on it enough. So FNR is all about like, hey, just get out there and do something. Like when you were a little kid, and you're like, I'm going to start a lemonade stand or something like that. Like, get back to doing those things. Because when you do that, that's what actually inspires you to make bigger plans, to make bigger impact.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Very cool. Well, so tell us a little bit about what you do and how you created your brand, how everything started.
Absolutely. So it started in quarantine, which is actually really funny. I feel like everyone's ideas are starting in quarantine or just at a time in their life where they had time to focus on them. And I really looked at what I do professionally, where I want to be in 5 or 10 years, and I felt really controlled by a lot of the standards that people were telling me to live by. So, you know, standards of I'm a college student, so I have to go into this kind of industry, or even like, hey, I'm in this role and now I have to play this position. And I started feeling like there was no room for innovation and there's no room for creativity, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, I want a clothing brand. And people were like, why? I was like, well, I don't really have a reason. Okay, that's it right there. We're gonna call it For No Reason. Let's just call the company For No Reason and empower more people to step out on faith and get out there in the world and do things just because.
I love that. Yeah, because you don't need to have a reason. If you're following what you want to do, it's because you want to do it.
That's exactly what
you don't need to justify to anybody why you're doing something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first product that we have out is the Embrace crew neck, and literally the Embrace crew neck is just telling people to accept not only willingly, but enthusiastically. So whatever your circumstance might be, definitely a year that we just left, 2020, you could have tons of reasons to, you know, hang your head and complain, and but you could embrace it. You know, you could just take it in and
make the
it
best. I love that. I love that. Where do they buy your merch?
So you can actually go to literally fnr.com to get the crew necks, and there's so much more coming. We're really looking just to build a community around people who want to focus on leisure time and not be controlled by the standards of life. So
I love that. I love that. So how did you create that design?
Honestly, it was really simple. I was like, people just need to understand the definition. Embrace was like a favorite word of mine, so I was like, hey, let's just type it into the internet. And when I typed it into the internet, Embrace, I just wanted to see who else has this idea. Like, is this out there already? And when I typed in Embrace, I really liked the way that the Google definition laid it out. Like, it was like, you know how it tells you the name, and then you break it down, it's a noun. I was like, that's cool. I was like, let's put that on a shirt.
That's awesome. I love that. You have some new designs coming in 2021 as well?
We do, yeah. I really want to focus more on the community. Like I said, like I want more people to like rep For No Reason and really understand what that means, and to tell their friends that, you know, want to do more in their lives. There's a lot of people who want to start businesses. There's a lot of people who want to do what you're doing, who want to start podcasts. There's a lot of people who want to do more. A lot of people want to do more than what they do 9 to 5, right? People have dreams, so I really want people to see a lot more of FNR just across their chest, just blaring. And I have a new product that I'm also working on called Things to Do For No Reason. So instead of just letting people wear the brand, I want you to actually experience the brand and kind of our calls. So
that's cool. Tell us more about that. I'm very interested.
So
what is it?
Yeah, Things For No Reason. It's kind of like a play off of like Cards Against Humanity, or even like a devotional or anything like that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and it's this idea where you can have this box and you go in and you draw a card, and it's gonna actually give you a suggestion of something that you can go do for no reason.
No way.
Because, you know, I can tell you, go do something for no reason, but a lot of people are asking me, like, well, Kire, what do I do?
True.
Like, you started this clothing brand, but what do little old me, what do I do? Well, you could go, like, learn how to plan a plan or something today.
Yeah.
You know, you could go volunteer down the street and give back to, you know, like the community. You could do tons of different things for no reason that are going to make you feel fulfilled and make you feel like you're living, you know, just a better life.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, how did you create your website? Did you design it yourself too? Because I know you do like customer experience, and for your job as well. You said you do a lot of creative stuff. So did you build your own website as well?
I did not build my own website.
Okay.
And personally, when I think you're taking on these different things, like in business or even creative, I think your team is the most important. It's like about who's around you. And although you can build the website yourself, I think it saves a lot of money. If you have people around you who are talented in that space, bring them in. That's the perfect time to bring them in. And my photographer or whatever, he's definitely well versed in that space. And he also had a friend, and they worked on my website and did a great job with that. And the partnership was amazing.
That's so cool. So on your website, tell us about your website. What does it look like?
So the website's really clean. Like right now, I'm all just like white and clean colors. So when you go to the website, the first model that we came out with was just the black embrace crew neck. So kind of the style that you saw was just clean, black, white. Clean, black, and white. But then when we added the other colors, it actually fit in to kind of add, you know, just those colors only on a white background. So stylistically, that's the only thing that we're staying on right now. And I think it looks really good.
That's awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. And so, the game that you're coming out with, or if you want to call it that,
a game,
right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I was like, is it a game?
The concept of, you know, inspiring people to do something, right? Where are they going to find that on your website as well?
Yes, it'll be on the website, and I think which people will see is like right now we just have the crew neck. Really looking at getting some basic like t-shirts out there for people just to rep the brand, and then of course for the ladies we were thinking about coming out with crop top hoodies hopefully this spring for women, which would be pretty exciting. But you would see the things to do for no reason on the website as well.
Okay, very cool. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
So tell us about your team. So you said that there was people around you, and that's important, like who you select and who's around you. So tell us how you selected the people to be on your team, and like who your team is comprised of, and how you found them.
Yeah, I love to brag on my team. I brag on these guys all the time, and I got to this place really just looking at my ego, you know, and really just kind of looking at myself as first as a creator, or just someone with a bunch of ideas, because a lot of us have ideas, but we don't want to call ourselves creators, right?
Right.
And I kind of looked at my weaknesses. I looked at the things that were keeping me up late at night, you know, the deficiencies, the things that just kind of really frustrated me about what I was doing. And I realized very early on that I could not do it by myself, like whatsoever. And it's not just not being able to do it by myself, but I wasn't going to be able to scale anything by myself. So I looked at, well, who can complement my weaknesses? And I contacted my best friend. He was studying film or whatever, and I brought him in to kind of have an eye, because I found myself really struggling with talking to other videographers and photographers and getting them to understand my vision when I had people around my network that understood my vision because they come from the same place. If that kind of makes sense. So
expand on that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was hard for me, you know, when you're starting a brand, and this even goes back to my podcast that I have myself, but when you're doing all of these things, you're going to go out there into the market. You're going to go out there in the market, and you're going to look for a photographer online through Facebook, through your network, and it might be someone that's your family or your friend, or it just might be someone that you like someone else's stuff, and you're like, hey, who does your stuff?
Right.
Like, I want that too.
Yeah.
That was good for so long. I look for people who want to be a part of the team who have a similar vision and who don't just want a project. So I've been very particular about the people I work with. Like, if you take me on as a client and you're like, hey, you're just another project, I normally don't want to work with you.
Right.
I want people who understand what I'm doing and they're here for like the long run. So that's when I started pivoting to my friends and being like, yo, I have something here. I know I have something here.
Yeah.
I need you to believe in me, right? And I need to bring you on because there's some parts of this that I know I don't have to explain to you because you just get it. We're cut from the same cloth. So I know you get this stuff. And that was tough. That was tough. And I make it sound very simple, like, yeah, just hit up my bros and we did the thing, but that took years of friction between those friendships to understand how we really play in each other's lives and and the roles that we play. So
I love that, and that's so true. It's like, it's really important who, especially if you have a brand or a vision or a goal, you know, with your dream, it's hard to you got to trust the right people with it, you know, that are going to actually value and appreciate it and want it to mean what you want it to mean.
Facts.
So I think that's great. Those are good lessons.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to that's an entrepreneur? Who inspires you?
That's funny. Since I'm on record, I'm going to say I look up to my best friend, Donovan Ruffin. So,
Okay, tell us about him.
The thing that I love most about Donnie is that he's very particular on the same subject that we were talking about who's around him. You know, this is somebody that I grew up with, and we're definitely cut the same, but there was a time where I recognized that he was going a different place in business, and it was no hard feelings, but he could not risk having me a part of his Fab Five. You know, he couldn't have me, you know, because, you know, you're looking at the people who are closest to you, the closest 5 people, and you're going to have to make that decision. Do I want this legacy that I want in my life, or do I want a couple of cool friends that are going to be nice to go up to the bar and drink a little bit? And I think I look up to him because I saw him make changes and pivot away from relationships and friendships and do what was necessary, regardless of those friendships, to get what he wants out in his life. And what's really nice, I had an episode on my podcast that's called They'll Understand. And it's focused on that right there, is that when you take that shift and you start moving somewhere else in your life, sometimes you can feel like those people are never going to come with you and that they'll never understand. But the people who understand, they'll always be there. And the people who didn't understand, like, they have another way in their life. So that's definitely why I admire Donovan.
That's really cool. Yep. I love that. And I think that's so important, and you've said it a couple times, is, you know, who you've got in your corner and who's pouring into you is so vital and so important, because people will either add or subtract to your life. So you have to look at people, are they energy drainers or are they energy adders? I know it's a hard reality for a lot of us to look at, but sometimes you really have to sit down and slow down and evaluate, like, who am I associating with, and are they pulling me away from my dreams? Are they pushing me towards my dreams? And you know, it is hard too, being young. You know, a lot of our friends, right, they want to go have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that, if there's balance to it, right? But when you have a dream and a vision and a passion and a mission for your life, you're like, man, I'm doing this over here, but if I stayed home and I put in the time here, I could develop another clothing line or something like that, or another shirt coming out, right?
Or I could be investing in promo. Like, there's been multiple times
there's
that
so
I've
many things that could
progress
you, absolutely, instead of regress you. And I think that's just like a huge lesson. And sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Because we all want to have fun with our friends. But you have to sometimes slow down and look at, okay, if I'm giving up this temporarily, long term I'll be able to have all the fun traveling over the world because I've built this brand. You know, so I think it's, you know, sometimes you have to give away short-term benefits for long-term gains, and I think a lot of people, you know, maybe struggle with that. But a thing that does help, right, is associating yourself with people that are also on that same path, so you don't feel like you're missing out, right? Because you're going to be pushed, and you guys keep each other focused.
That's big.
So I think it's really important.
That's really big.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I think I've, like, really learned, not only in business, but, you know, I sometimes think that we have too many business owners and not enough creative people, or not enough innovators. And I think that really comes down to this idea that we talk a lot about in business or anything, like, what's your why?
Yes.
We hear that all the time, and I'm one of those people.
There's even a book, Simon Sinek.
Exactly. A lot of people want to talk about why, and my thing, this is where I'm at right now in life. I think so many people focus on why that they end up whining, right? They end up whining. Like, it's just such an emotional tie that they just end up being like, I just want it so bad, and everything like that. And I really encourage people that work around me to focus on meaningfulness. And I mean, it probably sounds the same. I know you're probably listening to this like, isn't that the same thing? But we focus on so much why that we end up whining. But when we focus on meaning, we focus on mastery, right? And we're trying to master different things. And too many people are just focused on, this is why I'm doing it, but what are you mastering to get that, right? And when you focus on mastering something, that's when you really provide the meaning to what you're doing, right? And that's really kind of what I get my team and my people to focus on and try to empower people to do.
No, it's so good. Yeah, because I mean, if you don't focus and get good at one thing, then everything else is not going to fall into place.
Exactly.
You know, you can only spread yourself so thin. You need to really hone in and say, okay, what am I skilled at, or what am I the most passionate and excited about, and then hone in on that. And then everything else will kind of fall into place. Just like I was telling you about my podcast, right? My passion is inspiring people and connecting. I love meeting people and sharing their story. But now I have a clothing brand spiraling out of that and a book spiraling out of that. So it's like everything will, you know, fall into place if you're doing what you should be focusing on. So,
1000%.
But yeah, that's really cool. So I know there's probably been some hard moments, right, as you're building your brand and, you know, figuring things out and innovating. What are some tips that you can give people that helped you through those hard times and helped you continue to innovate and continue to push forward?
Yeah, so I will take it back to the whole why thing. A lot of people will be like, no, at this point right here, most people are going to tell you, know your why. And I'm going to tell you, no, that's, I personally don't believe that knowing your why in this situation matters. Make sure that what you're setting forth for yourself for the next 5 or 10 years is meaningful, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, does this matter to you, right? But I took a lot of L's. I'm very similar to you. I started a podcast, and that's literally how the brand kind of came out, and now I'm in all of these different ventures, all from doing a podcast for myself.
So cool.
Right?
Yeah. So tell us how that happened.
Yeah, I took L's though. So like.
No, it's okay. We want to hear it.
I took L's. So.
People can relate, right? That are listening, they can relate.
So like a lot of people don't know this. I tried to do the podcast in 2019. I did it in 2019, and it's funny because, you know, my photographer's doing pictures and stuff right now, but he was at a different place in his life. I had my videographer who does my video and stuff right now. He was at a different place. We all weren't there, but we wanted it, right? But life just happens, right? A year later, I get to a place where I start filming the things I want to, and I'm able to launch the way I want to. I'm starting to network and find different places to film it, and I was working at a shared working, I found a shared working space in Dallas. And I love those. Those were amazing pre-COVID. Those used to be the best places, shared working spaces.
Co-working spaces,
It's amazing. I love that stuff. And I found a really good one in Dallas. And I was walking out after having a meeting with my videographer, and the owner stops me. He's like, hey, come over here. Let's talk. And long story short, they were building a podcast studio.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
He put it in front of me, and I was like, no way, I'm about to launch. Like, and I was going to be able to level up the podcast, the quality, and everything in a blink of an eye, right? And I was going to be able to scale it and really do it the way I wanted to. And I already had about 3 episodes recorded from the comfort of my closet, right?
Oh, nice.
You know, it's like, you know, that's where you start.
Yeah,
that's where you start. And
what did you have to do?
I kid you not. I drive home from that meeting. I paid for the time and everything. I paid for like 10 hours a month to record. They would edit it, film it, all of that. It was a sweet deal.
Wow.
I went home like victorious, like extremely victorious. I get inside, I turn on the TV, and Donald Trump shuts down the country.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That was my launch. Like, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I got home and I was like, what do I do? I just told I told my Instagram, I told everybody I'm coming out with this podcast. Like, what do I do? Like, I already didn't know how to survive with a podcast, but not only a podcast, but a pandemic. And I kind of was like you. I focused on the one thing. Like you said, I like to inspire people. I want to do this. Well, cool. I said I wanted to do my project to kind of express myself. So get back to that. Make sure it's meaningful and keep focusing on expressing yourself. So through doing that, I was able to kind of survive through the pandemic, still in my house. But I found different tools like Zencastr. I don't know if you're familiar with Zencastr, but if anyone's trying to podcast, you need to definitely check out Zencastr.
Tell them about it. I've never talked about it, but I know about it.
Yeah, Zencastr is a voice over IP tool where literally if you're a podcaster, you could set up your mic and record and then invite other people into basically a chat room. And my favorite part about it, they do automatic post-production for you. So you can record, it'll separate into 2 different WAV files, and then it'll literally do auto post-production, and then you can clean it up in whatever other software that you do afterwards. It's amazing. But I found that, and instantly the light goes off, and I'm like, yo, I can continue to express myself, and not only express myself, I can express myself with more people that are outside of my city, because I limited myself to in-person interviews, and then when the podcast happened, I was like, there were always people I wanted to talk to that didn't live in my city, and it gave me the ability to do that. So I just went hard with that, and then I refocused, and there was a piece of my podcast that I wanted to be visual, and that's what I missed out, taking that L. And
Yeah.
that's when I started realizing I need a team to get to where I need to be. So that's when I brought in my best friend for video, started bringing in a couple other friends to kind of manage the idea flow and everything like that. So I wouldn't be overwhelmed. And I came up with this project called The Intermission that was like, the intermission was one project, but then I put like 4 different projects in there. And, I had a project called Quality Time with Friends, Men Being Petty, and then I launched F&R, which was the brand and everything, and I launched everything in a batch to end the year. And that's kind of what I did. And, you know, that it was a hard time though. It really was. Like, I didn't know, like, I almost quit again. Like, I was like, maybe it wasn't this year. Like,
But
I
why
thought
didn't
that.
you?
I didn't do it. I didn't quit just because I knew that if I could figure out things while it's tough,
Right.
holy crap, wait until you see me when things get better, you know?
I love that.
And that's why I'm so
mentality.
excited
How
for
did you
this year.
find that strength and like?
Yeah, really just believing in myself, you know, and if whatever else you believe in, I always tell people if you can't believe in something, there's no way you'll ever believe in yourself. So me, I'm personally like a man of faith, so I kind of leaned in on that. I definitely did way more meditation to kind of get there because I realized I need to get clear up here.
Right.
I just kept seeing what was going on in the world and kept thinking about my circumstance. There was gonna be no way possible that I could, you know, pull this off. So I got super clear, and that was painful. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to do that. So if you're in a tough place, you kind of got to strip back all of your armor and really just kind of look at yourself as flesh, you know, and be like, this is what I got. And when it came to that, I was like, you know what, I'm actually made for this. I can keep doing this.
Yeah, that's a great mentality to have.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Thank you.
So are there certain books or anything that you like to listen to keep you motivated or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say books, because I'm sure you can get tons of book recommendations for other people, but we are the audio generation.
Yes, we are.
We're the audio world, so like, of course, on a podcast, I'm going to suggest another podcast.
hey, you gotta pump mine up first.
Yeah, so like, I listen to a lot of Brendan Burchard. I'm a huge fan of Brendan. I've been listening to him now for like 8 years. A friend shared him to me while I was in college, and when he shared him with me, to me or whatever in college, I didn't think I'd, you know, participate like this. And he has a book called High Performance Habits to connect it to a book. So he has a podcast called The Brendan Show, which is just gold. He's like the godfather. He's like the godfather of like this personal development space. So High Performance Habits, and then I'm a huge Jay Shetty fan. I don't know if you're.
No, who's that?
I love Jay Shetty.
Okay.
Like he's phenomenal. He's from the UK, and he basically left his corporate job to kind of become a monk and like went hardcore, then moved back to LA. And I just love his story. He really talks about meditation and mindfulness. And he has a book that's called Think Like a Monk.
I think I've seen the book actually.
It's amazing.
Sounds
So
really
if I had to suggest anything, like definitely business wise, you got to get right within. And you got to get right within before you start leading people and before you start leading your company. And you can see a lot of people that are leading their businesses, but you're like, I know you're hurting.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Because we all hurt.
Yeah. So you got to take care of yourself so you can grow and add light to other people and inspiration. So that's awesome. So what are you excited about with like the new year? I know you said that you have some other, line, different clothing coming out and the game. What else are you excited about? Anything else?
I'm really pumped to execute.
Okay.
You know, I'm excited about that. Execution's big. I keep telling everyone, like, 2020, you learned a lot. You really saw, first off, you probably learned a little bit more about your family. You learned a lot, right?
Right.
And I feel like this year is all about execution and actually applying those lessons that you learned. So I'm looking at huge application, not just the brand, but I'm excited to return to podcasting. I'm like I'm really geeked about that. I'm like really, really excited because I love the podcast space. But we are returning. I had a podcast called The Habitual Project.
Cool.
And my new podcast, I think this is the first time I'm publicly telling anyone the name of my new podcast.
Oh, snap, you heard it here first on Double E.
No, but my new podcast is called Habitual L's.
Like losses?
Yeah, but lessons.
Oh, losses turn to lessons.
Booms. You know, got them right there. You need a sound effect that right there. Like that's,
I know.
so yeah, it's going to be Habitual L's, and I'm really pumped because, we did more of like an interview style, and you kind of went with me through my journey. But Habitual L's will be a podcast that's focused way more on storytelling and telling the stories that we experience every single day, or stories that we can relate to, and really taking the audience to a different place. Like, we want to take you to almost like a multiverse. Like, what is this? Like, I want you to feel like you're somewhere different. So I'm really pumped to kind of bring that to the market.
I love that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And where will you be doing that at?
Yeah, I'm probably going to do it on Anchor still, because Anchor is the best place to do your podcast.
Anchor is the best. Shout out to Anchor, sponsor us.
Yeah, I'll probably do it on Anchor for sure. I love Anchor. It's simple.
Yeah, it is simple.
It's the best way to get started for a podcast if you want to get started.
Yeah, it is. I absolutely agree. That's awesome. Well, anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Honestly, that focusing on meaningfulness, making sure the work that you do is meaningful. A lot of people want to get into business, but they don't even love it themselves. Like, you don't actually like to do this. You do it because it's a means of making money, right? And there's no problem with making money, because we all like making money.
Right.
Let's not get things jaded. That is very important. But I think you got to get your heart right. And we talked about teamwork. That's something I'm very big about. Like, as leaders of businesses, you need to work on leadership and make sure that you're empowering your people so that they can be the best, right? Sometimes as owners and as leaders, we want to kind of control everything. We want to control the odds, because we know things are better we know that if the odds are in our hands, we're good. But I think there needs to be a shift to empower your people, whatever that means for you. Like, really listen to your people and figure out what is meaningful to them. Right? Understand what's meaningful for you, but then dive deeper to understand what's meaningful for them. I feel like where I'm at right now, I am looking at the people I work with, and I'm trying to understand what benefits you the most. Like, what do you see in this? Like, the reason why you're helping me and what I'm doing, what does that have to do with you? Whatever that is, I need to understand that, because I'm going to go hard on that. Like, if you're telling me that, like, my videographer, my guy that does my film, he wants to write screenplays. Right? So I wanted him to advise me on the podcast and help me with my outlines and everything. But then I thought, and I was like, wait. I changed my entire plan because of what empowered him. I was like, okay, you want to write screenplays. I want you to help me on the podcast. How about we make the podcast screenplays, so now you write a script for every single podcast.
Oh, cool.
And now at the end of the year, you're looking back and you have 12 scripts to add to your portfolio.
That's awesome.
Now I can empower you to go chase what you really want in life. That's important. We gotta start having conversations and take action like that, because that's how you build massive teams, right?
Absolutely. So it's like kind of some of like the customer experience that you're kind of referencing is, So that's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. I think that's really true, and it's part of what I'm trying to do here through, Double E Elevating Entrepreneurs, I say, through education and empowerment. And I think it's so valuable to educate and empower other entrepreneurs, because that's how we help each other grow. That's how we help the community grow.
Exactly.
And then overall the world will grow and continue to flourish. And I think entrepreneurship or creativeness, it doesn't mean you need a traditional business. You can innovate and be different, right? But with 2020 ending, 2021 starting, I think, with everything that we've been through, as, the U.S. and overall the world, right, because it's been a pandemic, it's all about just innovation and just starting something new. And, I hope you guys that are listening are inspired by our conversation to go out there, if you've been afraid, to go out there and start something new. And you know what, if you fail, like he's talking about in his new podcast, you just turn it into a lesson, and you innovate and you adjust and you adapt and you do little tweaks here and there. It's just like if you were flying a plane, right? You have the coordinates, you know where you're going, so you always want that vision to aim at, but you can always adjust along the way. Birds might come, or another plane might come and be in your path. You've got to be adaptable. But if you're adaptable and flexible, that's when you guys will get to where you want to be. And so I think it's just so important to keep that in mind as you guys grow. But awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today on Double E, Elevating Entrepreneurs. And you guys stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap.
I think it was good.
That's a wrap. I like hearing myself in these headphones.
Yeah.
It's like too much for me.
Oh, what do you guys think? How did we
Good.
sound? It was good?
Yeah. That was really
Okay. Did we talk enough about your customer experience though?
No, that's fine. I really like to tease that right now. It's really fun. Cause so it's really, so what's really interesting is like the way I present
'Cause I
myself on
introduced
social.
you like that.
I think, I mean, we can definitely do another take because I know how editing is.
Yeah.
Do you want to add a little bit more about that real quick?
Yeah, we can definitely do it.
Okay, is it still recording there?
Yeah.
Are you
wait.
gonna go
Oh,
live? Are you gonna go live again?
I'm like on live right now. I just realized that actually.
What do you want me to ask you about this?
That's what I was wondering. I was like, going off the top of my head right now, I don't think I can.
No?
I don't think I can.
Okay.
It would have had the flow. Like, if you caught me, I would have been like, oh, I gotta do it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I'm gonna screw it up.
Yeah,
I know.
how are you gonna screw it up?
I know myself, I'm gonna screw it up. I'm gonna screw it up. Because now I'm thinking too much.
Well, what did you already ask? Do you remember what you asked him
Mhm.
earlier? So yeah, just if you can just like carry off exactly where you left off, that'd be the greatest.
About customer experience?
Mm-hmm.
I just asked him about him asking people what they wanted
Mm.
and how that is pretty much what customer experience is, right? It's getting that feedback.
Yeah.
So you just want to add to that a little bit? Or do you want to just keep it where it is?
You can kind of talk about like how you gauge the market on like what your next release would be.
I feel like we should add a little bit more about it because we didn't really say
Yeah, we
much.
can, I mean, yeah, it's definitely whatever you want to do. That sounds.
You don't have to talk a ton about it.
Yeah, I was like,
a
if you,
little
yeah,
bit.
we can just do like a little blurb about it real
Okay.
quick.
Might as well since you
Yeah, yeah.
fast. Okay. Awesome. So I know you were talking about, customer experience and getting feedback, right, from your clients, from your customers, even from people that you work with. So can you tell us why that's important and how you do it?
Yeah. First off, it's important just because at the end of the day, we're all consumers, right?
Mhm.
And somewhere along the road, I think everyone started focusing on different sides of the business. And
Mhm.
luckily, I found a fascination in user experiences and exactly how people perceive the value going into the transaction, and then that
Yeah.
expectation, how we deliver on it, that actual ROI at the very end. And
Mhm.
a lot of people are focused on sales, and it's very transactional. And I'm a much more relational person.
Mhm.
Both of my degrees, undergrad and then also my master's degree, are interdisciplinary, and also have a background in applied data analytics. So I'm
Wow.
someone who I want to really get into the data and understand, okay, what is the data telling us about our customers?
Mhm.
Or what data do you have for your business?
Mhm.
But then also getting on the ground level and having that relationship and that connection with your users so that we can really craft and design a unique experience that actually is tailored to your customer segment, So
Awesome.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I work with a lot of companies right now, just like, how are you positioning the sale, I was talking to someone last night on a call, and we were talking about the sales question of, if I could do this, what would this do for you? That's like a very sales kind of conversation. Like, if my product could do this for you, what would that provide you? And I think we're taught that from a sales perspective, but I just look at that question different. That's not a value question of like, oh, what could this do for you? It's actually an expectation. I'm telling you that my product can solve this, and if it can, what does that relationship alongside you look like? How do we make sure that we continually deliver on that? So from front end to back end, that's what I'm focused on when I work with people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Actually, I read a book. It's called The Referral of a Lifetime, or The Referral of a Lifetime.
Yes.
Have you read it?
Yes. Referrals are big. Referrals are
it's
big.
so good. But in there, the mindset she talks about is, adding value.
Mhm.
So, like, you listen for that need, and you explain how you can help each other out,
Mhm.
and how you're also helping them fulfill whatever it is they're trying to fulfill.
Exactly.
So it's not about what you want; it's about what they want.
Yep.
So, what are some tools, or how do you do that?
They're kind of focused on more of like what they want.
Yeah, no, like, how do you what are you using to create this data, to find this data?
Oh, no, it's all about what the company has. So a lot of
Okay.
people, what you'll find with a lot of companies, they actually aren't collecting data. Like they have their.
I'm not surprised on that,
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest.
So it's like they have like a lot of data on their company, like whether it's transactional or everything. But I'm really big on the perceived ease of use, right? Or like the perceived value, right? And when you're talking about perception, that's all before you get to the transaction. So like, how are they viewing us when they're coming in? What is that experience like when they hear about us, right? And being very strategic with them. So I work with, 2 software companies right now. And something that I'm really big into is like in-product surveying. And we have some of these customer experience functions with like some apps where you go in and you're gonna click that you're this user, and you're this user, but it's like these companies are tailoring your experience because of those questions that they asked you. So I think that's a really good way that a lot of people can impact their businesses like immediately. I don't know if it really works like in the e-commerce space, but if you're a business right now, the more questions that qualifying, it'll help you with your ROI and making sure that you deliver on the ROI for the business, right? Because if you don't ask those questions, you're going in blind. You're going in blind, understanding like, hey, when this customer came into our business, they actually saw that this process was going to be so complicated. It's like buying a car, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows when you go buy a car, it's going to be a complicated process, right?
Yeah, and a long process.
Exactly. So if you could have data that really showed you that you were thinking that it was a complicated process before, but we gave you a process that was way faster, now we have value.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now we can use that and be like, hey, according to these survey results that you did before you came here, you thought this was going to be crazy, right?
Right.
And this ended up being the quickest experience ever, or simplest experience. And I mean, that's just on like a hypothetical situation, but that's how you can kind of use surveying on the front end of your business to kind of make sure that you're delivering. And for business owners listening to this right now, it saves you time. If you know this information, you're not going to build out products or build out services that aren't actually solving that need, right? So you can kind of know, okay, these are how the customers are coming in. We actually don't need to be wasting time on that. We actually need to shift this way. So I do that. I play that role for a lot of people wherever they need it. And that's what I do kind of on the customer strategist side.
What software do you recommend for small business owners to use?
Honestly, Google Suite's everything. Like honestly, just to get up and running. Like if you really need to get something going, just do Google Suite. Like whether that's from Google Ads, whether it's Google Analytics. Like if you're just trying to get up and running, like Google is your everything. Like it's simple, right? And they have so many different tools and resources to kind of really start giving you that high level thing like that, or even just Google Forms. So if you're a small mom and pop or you're in professional services, it's very simple for you to kind of create a Google form that's like integrated into Sheets, and all of those responses that you're getting at the beginning of the sale just to qualify the sale. You can collect all of that information and start getting a really high level understanding of who your customer is.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And so what you suggest is them asking their clientele questions to increase engagement.
Absolutely, just asking questions. I think people are more willing to tell you things than what we think. Like
Yeah.
they'll let you know. The fact that you're asking questions, that matters to them. That shows that you're actually trying to improve your product. Like I'm always telling people like, hey, I want your feedback because this helps me continually improve the product.
Right, and you suggest surveys is like your most effective.
Surveying, right?
Okay.
Now, and if you're not doing survey, understand what data that you already have and what you're collecting. And if not, try to get some specialist in, or just try to get some little 18-year-old in to let you know what you're overlooking, you know?
Right. Okay, very cool, very cool. And you've seen that since you've worked in it, the trend that normally the customer experience increases after they've had that engagement and they feel like their opinion is valued. And then the business increases, right? Because they've gotten that feedback.
Yeah, you get a lot
given
of
that feedback.
Absolutely, you get a lot of value-added services. You know, the idea of paying more attention to the customer experience is for add-on revenue. That's why you do this. You know, you want a customer to come in and buy one thing, but you nurtured it so well and you understood their needs that you started becoming a partner with them. So they started building out more services and more products through your company.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And is there any other tips that you have for listeners for them to increase the customer service experience, customer experience?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things is a lot of people will get confused and make this just a customer service function, right? And what you really want to do is kind of build this CX, customer experience function into every element of your business, top down, you know. It can't just be something where they just function as a department and whenever there's a fire, you want these people or this person to put it out. Right, exactly. You want you want this function to be a part of every single decision making. Like when you're handling things in finance and figuring out how you're going to invoice people, you want this to be very customer centric of like, how are they going to perceive this notification down to the timing of when we send this this invoice. You want it to be embedded in every single aspect of your business. And as an owner, you might not have time to do this. That's why you have someone like me. That's why you have me.
Yeah.
That's why you have me.
Awesome. I love it. Anything else you want to share on the, no?
No,
Okay,
it's
on
been
the topic?
special. It's been
Okay.
special.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming out and being on the Double E podcast. And you guys stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you. Wasn't too bad.
I think it was good. It was great.
That's kind of, you think you'll be able to edit that all in?
Yes, I will be able to.
I like people who understand
Okay, you
editing.
can stop that, yeah.